Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxy.
What's up, what's up, what's up? What's going on out there in boxing land? This is your host, Mark Roxy, and you are listening to the Boxing Breakdown. I'm delighted to be with you this evening, and I'm excited for this evening's show. We are on pins and needles, leading up to the excitement this weekend that's about to happen. So, as you can see on the side of the screen, you can see that we are going to break down the Fury versus Wilder press conference. We are also going to talk a little bit about the TV undercard and the matchups that are going to take place on, I believe it's Fox Sports and ESPN Plus, I believe. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the pay-per-view heavyweight cards, the undercards actually, and then we're going to talk about the big kahunas, the big fish, the big cheese of this weekend, which is Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder main event. Man, it is going to be off the chain. And so without further ado, let's see if I can rum drum my good buddy and partner in crime, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up, what's up, what's up, Mr. Harold Hunt?
What's up, man?
Oh, man.
How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Oh, man, it's going to be great this weekend. We got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about, man. We really, really do. And I'm just excited to get right chop into it. And I think it's going to be an awesome episode. And if you are listening on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you join in on the conversation. Share your comments down below if you like. If you are there, it is pretty late at night. It's about 9:45 Eastern Standard Time, and yeah, man, if you're out there, just leave your comments, man, because we're gonna chop it up, and we want to know what you think, our listeners. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast or anywhere you get your podcasts, please make sure that you share the podcast and subscribe so you can get the latest episodes right, a ringtone right to your telephone or wherever you are to know that we just released another episode of the Boxing Breakdown with my good partner in crime right here, Mr. Harold Hunt, bro. And yeah, man. Hey, Harold, let's get into this, okay?
Okay.
Let's talk about first of all, this is the joint card, right? It's a card that's being put on by, is it PBC and Top Rank?
Yes, it's a Top Rank fight, and PBC people are involved in it. So both networks are going to be working together to give this to us.
Right, and it's ESPN Plus, and it's going to be, this is there's a lot. Like, when I was listening and trying to figure out exactly where everything was going to go down, it's actually like, it's like a road, it's like a GPS coordinates to all the stuff that's going to happen this weekend, because there are going to be fights on television. It's, and do you know what the networks are for that? Is it going to be like Fight TV or... Are you familiar with what networks it's going to be? Because I actually couldn't really figure that piece of it out. But I know yeah, go ahead.
You've got ESPN Plus.
Yep.
Okay, then you got regular ESPN. Then you got FS1. So they're all jockeying back and forth to get certain fights on free TV before the pay-per-view.
Right.
So
Then you've got pay-per-view, you've got Fox pay-per-view, right? And ESPN Plus, right? Okay.
yes,
So those are the pay-per-view angles, and then the TV is the undercards are going to be held on TV, right? And then I guess they're going to say, okay, buy the fight, and you got to switch over and buy the pay-per-view, right?
you're right.
So let's talk about one of the fights that I'm really, really intrigued about. I'm really I want to talk to you about the TV fight with Julian Williams, who's 27 and 2 with one draw, and he's got 16 KOs, right? Versus Vladimir Hernandez, who's 12 and 4 with 6 KOs out of Mexico. It's like, I think it's a 154-pound division fight, and yeah, man, do you know much about this fight, and what are you expecting?
Well, Julian's coming back. He had a loss, and he was defeated pretty soundly, pretty much. So he kind of took a little time off and kind of re-energized himself. And he said he wasn't really focused on the training camp because he's got so much other things going on with his real estate and this and that and the other. He said he didn't really have a great camp, and he kind of got himself in a situation where he wasn't prepared to give his best effort. So he took some time off. So this fight here is kind of a welcome back type of thing,
right?
Where he can kind of showcase his skills. He doesn't have anybody that's really going to, give him a problem at all. Shouldn't be, but it's going to be a decent fight where we should get some rounds in with someone's going to give us a little opposition. But it's not of the caliber that he's used to. But he needs to be, gotten back into the game. Now, he is really fun to watch. He's mentally strong. He sticks to game plans. And when he's in shape, he's pretty much a dominant type fighter. So if you're a purist, you're going to enjoy his style.
Right. No, I get that. And I agree with you with that. Julian Williams is a very accomplished fighter, but also this guy, Vladimir Hernandez, his record doesn't indicate his skill level, because I think he just come off of a very, very big win against Angulo.
Yes, he did well, but Angulo is coming down the other side of the hill, if you will.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Of course, that is a good name to have on your resume, of course, but the name is more pop than the actual fighter that he defeated. However, it got him this opportunity, and he's going to have a good head on his shoulder as far as he feels like he can win, and you're going to see a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him against Julian. Although I know that Julian Williams does have a purported elbow. I don't know if he still has that elbow issue. I know he had an elbow issue. And I know that he took some time off, almost 21 months of a layoff. So he's coming back to the ring with a very, very long layoff. Almost just shy of 2 years. So it's yeah, man, that's a serious amount of time to be off. So that should be, I mean, that definitely poses some questions and makes that a very intriguing fight, to watch.
It's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, man. And so another one of the TV fights, Harold, if we can jump forward into the, there's a 10-round bout that's going to take place between Edgar Berlanga, right, who's 17 and 0, man, 17 and 0 with 16 KOs. Versus Marcelo Esteban Corceras, if I said that correctly, 30 and 2 with one draw, right? 30 wins, 2 losses with one draw, 16 wins coming by way of KO. This guy on paper looks like he could be some trouble. We'll see. I know that Edgar Berlanga's last fight did not end with knockout. It went to distance, and I know that their team was happy about getting the rounds. That was one way to spin that, but he had been making knockouts all along, and this fight is for the vacant WBO NABO super middleweight title. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts about that, Harold?
Well, we're talking about Edgar, right?
Yeah,
Edgar Berlanga. Well, as you know, he jumped into boxing pretty seriously, knocking everyone out, and he was tested his last fight. He
yeah,
did knock the gentleman down a couple of good times, and he proven that he has some skill set. So he's going to be fun to watch anyway because he's going to want to continue that streak or start a new streak. So he's going to try to knock people out. Now I know we got a pay-per-view card, and you have to pay your hard-earned money to see the four main bouts. But I'm telling you, the undercard is great
right,
all the way through. So even if you decide not, you have to work or what have you, you decide not to purchase the other thing, the main, you got so many good fights on these undercards that are free, and this is one of them. This
right.
would be a headliner on any other time, not a pay-per-view, but it would be a headline on Showtime or Fox or any other major
Oh, for
network
sure.
that's on regular television. So please look at it. Now, he's being tested. He's being tested. He's not. This is not someone that they're feeding him. He has to fight, and he
Right.
could lose this fight. He could. So, and this is his first straps. He'll get some straps if he wins these fights, and then he'll get ranked higher, and then he'll become someone that they have to pay attention to more than being just a sensationalized knockout person.
Right. Right. Powerful, powerful statement, Harold. But very, very true. I mean, that makes that. I mean, these guys put together, the promoters put together. I think TGB is involved in this as a promotion, but they did a really good job at putting together that. The TV undercard. And everybody. I mean, if you haven't seen it, if you guys are listening in out there and you haven't gotten a chance to see Edgar Berlanga fight, not to just slant it on one side, because I'm sure that Marcelo Esteban Corsegas is pretty good too. I mean, he's from Argentina. He comes out of Argentina, so I haven't really seen too much of this guy. But you got to watch those guys from Argentina, man, because some of those guys can really bang. And then Edgar Berlanga coming out of Brooklyn, New York, he's amazing. He's an amazing fighter. He just became a father, so the fact that he's a father now, he's got he's got a lot to prove, a lot. He's fighting for his family, and it's just
Yeah.
he's known as the monster. So we'll see, man. We'll see on that 10-round bout. We'll definitely see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that definitely changes his focus. Before it was the bravado and knocking people out,
Yeah,
and he's already had cars and Ferraris and all that maybe 2, 3 years ago. So it's not even for that anymore. For now it's a whole different number of opportunities for yourself when you have a child that you have to feed. And those out there who are parents or what have you, once you have your first child, you shift. And now
right.
for him, a shift could really take off his career because now he has someone to fight for, and he may be more focused on getting those knockouts so he can market himself better.
Yeah, I mean it's put up or shut up. These are big. Those early fights obviously have been, most of the fights have been picked fights and carefully designed career matches. But, as you step up, you start to, you're fighting a guy. Look, he's fighting a guy that has double the amount of experience that he has in the professional boxing arena. And, yes, the guy does have 2 losses, so he can be beat. But he also has 16. He has the same number of KOs as Edgar Berlanga. And to be honest, it could be, his record could be better than what he's able to produce, meaning Marcelo Esteban. But, it could also be a situation where, he comes in and he upsets the Berlanga. So you just don't know. Again, a great pick for a fight, great on paper. Definitely is a must see TV kind of fight. and I'm excited about it too. And then we moving right along, Harold. I guess we can jump up into the pay-per-view stuff, because I'm getting, it's going to get real juicy in a second here, everyone. But when we talk about the pay-per-view, let me just bring up my graphic here. I want to just switch this off here. And yeah, so the pay-per-view, again, that it's a ESPN Plus and Fox Sports pay-per-view. I think it's 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time is when the bouts occur. It's an all heavyweight action card. The undercard is all heavyweight. So I have a feeling this is going to be, they're going to do good numbers for this pay-per-view. And the first bout, Harold, I really love to talk to you about is this NABF heavyweight title. It's only a 6-rounder, but it's against the much talked about, highly credited Jared Anderson, who's 9-0 with 9 KOs, versus a gentleman by the name of Vladimir Tretskin, who's 20-0 with 1 draw, and he's got 12 wins coming, big wins coming by way of KO. And so it looks like they have really put their money where their mouth is to create a real fight here. So what are your thoughts about this?
Jared is called the real big baby. Now you have a couple other players, other fighters who have named themselves Big Baby. And there's a basketball player named himself Big Baby, but he calls himself the real Big Baby. Now, Jared Anderson wasn't a football player or some other sport. He has been bred in boxing, so he has all the fundamentals. Right. Now, he is in a situation where he's knocking everyone out right now, and he happens to be one of the sparring partners for Mr. Fury. Supposedly, what we've been reading, Mark and I have saw that he really gives Wilder good work, and Bob Arum uses a different term, as in good work, as in he's getting his butt kicked at times. Wow. And they have to kind of pull Jared off of him. Now, his opponent is Russian. Now, of course, the fare over there is a little different. It's kind of a stand-up style. They're not really moving off the jab and all that type of thing. So him coming over here to fight Jared, he's going to see a little different style. It's going to be easy for Jared because he's going to be that's a kind of a target type thing. His record looks good. He's a big guy. He's strong. He's going to move, but he's really not in a situation where he can really affect Jared too much because he's just not a mover. He's kind of plodding. So it'll be some nice target practice.
Right. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, you characterize it as target practice, but, let's not forget this Trechkin guy, Vladimir Trechkin, is 20-0.
True. I'm not discounting that.
Right.
But his opposition is nowhere near that 20-0 record that he garnered is not near the type of caliber that Jared is. Right. Nor has the style he's seen. So it's going to be totally foreign to him. I mean, he's going to train and what have you, but he hasn't seen this kind of movement or hand movement, or he's not going to see that over there, where he fights. I mean, these fights he's had. Yeah, no,
I got that. And, you bring up a good point, but, you never know, man. Like, I wonder.
Oh, yeah, this is boxing.
Yeah, and I'll be very interested to see what happens in the betting world, some of the betting platforms, to see what the odds are for this fight, because, I mean, again, bigger upsets have occurred, and so, yeah, for all intent and purposes, we do believe that Jared Anderson should win this fight, but, you just don't know what you have in a game. Vladimir Trechkin coming into this fight, he's got a lot to prove, I'm sure, and so does Jared Anderson. I believe in one of the press conferences, I heard him say that he really doesn't have too much to prove, which I thought was really interesting that he would say that. But because when you only have a record of 9-0, there's a lot to prove. You've got a long way to go to get where where you're going.
It's a 6-rounder, which is peculiar to me because the other gentleman has fought more than 6 rounds several times.
I think it's an 8-rounder, Harold. I believe it's an 8-rounder.
Okay.
Yeah,
if it's 8-rounder, that's a little more feasible. Because a 6-rounder, you really can't get into what you need to get into. And one person gets far enough ahead where you don't get a chance to develop your strategy. Yeah. And that's not necessarily, I wouldn't say fair, but that's not going to necessarily give us a great fight with 2 calibers of fighters that we have here. So being 8, and I'm misinformed, being 8, that really adds more intrigue to it.
Yeah, no, it really does. And, it is also for the NABF. I don't know if you heard me in the beginning, but
yes,
it's an NABF. I don't think it's a world title. It might be an interim title or something.
It's a USA title. It's an American title.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, which is great because you get all the American belts, the NABO, USBA, this NABF, and all the other underling belts that are associated with the Big Four. You get all those. You put yourself in a situation where you could have a chance to fight some eliminators to get to the champion. So this is a big deal. It changes his money also. He's still got to pay attention if he wins, but his purse will be larger because he does have these belts, these local, not local, but national belts.
Yeah. No, I get that. And that's a good point. Hopefully you're listening, Jared Anderson. You're really listening to what Mr. Hunt is saying here, that you need to make sure you get that win because big things are going to happen for you. For sure. I mean, big things have already happened, but you know what that means. And as you said earlier, Jared Anderson has been sparring Tyson Fury. I think he's done some sparring with Brian Jennings, Joseph Parker, and again, Tyson Fury has actually said, I've heard him say in a couple of different interviews, that he believes that Jared Anderson is the future of the heavyweight division. So, for Tyson Fury to come out and say that publicly, that's quite a statement for the young Jared Anderson.
I would love to see that sparring, man. That's probably some beautiful stuff in there because Tyson has to probably fight a little bit of a round for real.
Yeah.
to stave off embarrassment because, when you're young like that and you get a chance to spar the heavyweight champion of the world, you're going all out. Whereas the champion usually, he's kind of just, I'm just looking at what you're seeing. I'm working on these little things or whatever. But I think if he gets touched a few times, he has to kind of go into his regular fight mode. And that is what I want to see in sparring.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I suppose that you're going for Jared Anderson on this fight, huh?
Well, just because of the style is something that the Russian gentleman has not seen. And, the American style or urban style or whatever style you want to say when you're moving and you're jabbing and you're dropping that right hand and you're giving angles and you're not straight up and down, that style usually prevails. Unless you get touched with something.
Right, unless you get touched. It is heavyweight boxing, Harold.
Yes. But on paper,
I will remind the listeners, this is heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen. And speaking of anything happening, let's take a look at the next bout. I think this is I don't know if it's a co-main feature or not, but I can't remember. But Robert Helenius, who's 30-3 with 19 KOs, versus Adam Kowalczyk.
Adam Kowalczyk. His pronunciation, shout out to him. It's a Polish surname, and it's really melodic. Actually, I just can't say it.
Kowalczyk.
Yes,
Kowalczyk. I think it's Kowalczyk. But anyway, if we pronounce your name incorrectly, please do not find us in the arena and knock us out, because you are a big man, Mr. Adam Kowalnik. 20-0. Excuse me, 20-1 with 15 big wins coming by way of KO. I think his nickname is the Babyface Assassin, and Robert Halengas' nickname is the Nordic Night, the Nordic Nightmare.
Now,
right? He's out of Finland.
Yes, he is actually from Viking blood. His heritage is of the Vikings, the Norsemen of that century. He is a descendant of a Viking. There is no doubt about that. And he's played that in his marketing and that type of thing. So that's pretty good in that. As far as Adam's concerned, he was on the fast track to be one of the contenders to fight any of the three big boys.
Right.
But he got in a situation with this gentleman, and he got hit early, and he never recovered.
Yeah.
Now, that was a situation where he was hurt, but he didn't know how to recover. And that's something you have to learn in the gym. If you get hurt, what to do. Mark, I'm sure you can speak on that better than I.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we do all kinds of drills specifically designed for, to replicate what it feels like to get hit. And yeah, there's all kinds of things we do, and there's all kinds of conversations that take place. And sometimes in sparring, you might get rocked a little, and you might act a little typical for when you get rocked. And so not knowing what that feels like, sometimes it can come across as a very odd sensation. It can come across as it's very disorientating if you're used to doing the hard hitting and you're not getting caught and you've never been touched like that. What happens is you get this false sense about yourself, and then when you do get touched, you have no idea what to do because you never felt that sensation before, and you're really not sure even what's happening, right? But by the time you know what's happening, it's already happened. So it's a very peculiar kind of situation for those of you that are listening out there. But yeah, you really have to do a lot of work on what you do to, number one, not get in that situation where you are going to get, there's a difference between getting hit, right, or not winning a fight and really getting hurt, not really competing, if you will. There's a difference, and so that a lot of that has to do with how you fight, what your game plan is, and if there is a game plan, because some of these guys don't have game plans. They just go out there and do what they know works, and it works for a long time, and then it stops working, and then they don't know what to do, and which is kind of we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. Because we're going to get into, the main event. We're going to talk about that in a couple seconds. But, this fight is intriguing as well. It's going to be a great fight. This is a pay-per-view fight, okay? The Jared Anderson fight and the Robert Halengas versus Adam Kowalnik, they're both pay-per-view fights, and they're going to be amazing. It's going to be a great, great fight. And we have one more fight to talk about on the undercard of the pay-per-view, Harold, and that is the Ife Ajagba.
Yes.
From Nigeria. He's from Nigeria, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's 15-0, and he's facing off against Frank Sanchez, who's 18-0 with 13 KOs. I think that Ajagba, all of his wins have come within the distance. None of them have been by KO, but he's facing off a tough Frank Sanchez, who's out of Cuba, and this is for the WBC Continental Americas and the WBO NABO Heavyweight Title. This is a co-main event, and I think this is a power versus skill kind of fight. Harold, what do you think?
Well, F.A. Ajagba is famous for getting in the ring to fight a gentleman And soon they said fight, the gentleman got out the ring and walked out the ring. You guys seen that footage?
I remember that. Yeah.
Now, Jogba is he's powerful. He hits hard. He's been knocked down a couple of times. He's trained by Ronnie Shields. He's got good skills, but he started kind of late. Now, Sanchez has Cuban pedigree, Cuban amateur training, and fundamentals. So usually, just on paper, Marcus, we're talking about on paper, that type of pedigree allows you an advantage. Now, Sanchez is more of a counterpuncher, but he's a good size a man, and he's got great pedigree skills. Now, a Jogba is strong, and he's coming with his discipline that he's recently gotten, if you want to say it, compared to Sanchez.
Right.
So, in my opinion, Sanchez's pedigree is going to protect him and help him have an opportunity to win, especially him being a counterpuncher.
Right.
And Jogba doesn't have that in his repertoire. He's going to be coming forward. So he's stepping right into Sanchez's type of situation. Now, Sanchez he's fighting in, he's coming from the Canelo camp. So they're inherently all counterpunchers. Canelo and everyone in that area, the counterpunchers. So what we're going to see is a bull rushing in, and we're going to see Sanchez really do some good work with his pedigree.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, this is going to be a very, very good fight. I am kind of going toward it being a clinic from Mr. Sanchez, but I just you never know, because again, it's another heavyweight bout and anything can happen. And I know that Ife, did you say Ajabwa or Ajaba? Ajaba, right?
Well, I've said it's a Jogba. That's how I
okay.
pronounce it usually.
Okay.
It's
I
a
got
Jogba.
Yeah, man.
So,
he's a power puncher, so he's gonna come out there swinging for the fences, and if he catches you, you might go to sleep. Very intriguing.
But he has been hit. He has been down. He does come in to kill, and he can be hit.
Right.
So
right.
And he doesn't have the discipline as of yet to know how to get out of the way, how to pair punches. Right now, he's just running through folk. So This is going to be a great fight. I mean, these fights, I've read where people are saying this is some of the best undercard they've seen in many, many years, where you don't know who's going to win. There's no walkovers for anybody, actually.
Yeah, no. As we're going through this, as we're going through this for like the third time, right? looking at all this, all these fights. I mean, these are solid fights. I mean, this is not they're breaking out all the stops for this card, man.
Reminds me of the old school days, man, when Don King used to stack it. It's ridiculous.
It's stacked, all right, man. It's definitely stacked. I mean, you can't. I mean, if this doesn't produce an absolutely outstanding evening, I don't know what to say, man. Because this is, I don't know.
It's going to be on two platforms. You got the two political parties working together. They're using their fighters to oppose the other fighters.
Right.
The whole thing is a nice melting pot of all the stuff that boxing fans need to see, as far as good quality fights, and everyone is shaking hands and working together on this. So it's just good. It's just really, really good. It's worth your money. It sure is.
Yeah, and I remember us back in the pandemic days. I remember us having a podcast talking about why the promoters don't work more together, and it's just a blessing to be here and actually see this happening, for sure. For the boxing fans especially, for us, those of you that are out there, you're in for quite a treat if you get to buy this pay-per-view. And also check out the undercards. This is going to be an amazing card. And then Harold, without any more waiting, all right, because I'm just like, I mean, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed talking about all those fights. But what I really want to do is I really want to talk about the main event, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder for the WBC Heavyweight Title. That's what I really want to talk about. So, come on, let's go. Let's talk about this fight.
Well, let's start with the press conference, okay?
Yeah.
Now, that was really interesting, just the dynamic that was going on there. For those who watch it or who didn't watch it, simply they both came out, and Deontay came out first, and he sat down, and it was commentated by the lady host from PBC. Her name escapes me at the present time. They called Tyson Fury. It took him almost 5 minutes to come out. You couldn't write this stuff. So he came out, and, he had a suit on, and I'm sure you all have seen the pictures, what have you. But he refused to sit down. And she kept asking, will you please sit down? He said, no, I'm good. I've been sitting all the time. I want to stand up.
Right.
So it threw off the optics of the cameras. So the cameras had to stay back because they had to get all the fighters in the frame, for the optics. But because Tyson stood up, they had to stay back. So that kind of changed the way it looked. Now, as far as his posture and what have you, he was very aggressive. He was like a panther in a cage, whereas Deontay was sitting on his stool and he was purposely scrolling through his phone as if to look very unenthused or unbothered.
Uninterested, yeah.
Uninterested, yeah, in the whole proceedings. Whereas every word was in his mind. He was listening and thinking and contemplating constantly. There was no way that he didn't hear or understand, or he just was very stoic, but he was taking it all in.
Yeah.
What'd you see, Mark?
No, I agree. I thought it was a battle. I mean, they were both they were premeditated about their entrances, right? So they both had that staged. I know that Tyson Fury, kind of went at Deontay Wilder for not wearing a shirt, copying him and calling himself a king when he's not really a king. And, I mean, it was just like a mental, it was mental gymnastics is what it was. They were just going at it with each other mentally. And everything seemed to be staged and premeditated. Like they knew what they were trying to do in that press conference, and, I thought it was, I definitely thought that Tyson Fury, if you want to go into the mental gymnastics, I felt that Tyson Fury really dominated the conversation. I mean, that was just my take. I don't know what you felt about that, but I thought that Tyson Fury was just, what does he call him? A dulcer or something like that?
Yeah, big dulcer.
Yeah, he just uses that over and over again, and he has been for like the last 3 fights or the last 2 fights, and now this one. So he just doesn't get off that that I don't even know what that really means, and I don't want to know what a dulcer is, but let's just go with the fact that he kept calling Deontay Wilder that, and he wouldn't get off of it.
So what I saw and I enjoyed the most was Deontay attempted to be really stoic and silence is golden and what have you.
Yeah.
But Fury got him out of that, and he went into his dialogue. Now, he was forced to defend some of the things that he said about the gloves and the egg weights and this and that and the other.
Right.
So when he opened that door, Tyson jumped all on. You shouldn't have fired Breland. You this, you that. I mean, he just gave him opportunity to poke at him. Why do it now? Oh, the lady's name was Kate Abdo, and she's pretty good, but in a sense, she kind of lost control because they started over talking one another, and she couldn't necessarily get them not to do so. She
Ah,
did her very best, but obviously Tyson was pretty much over talking her. Deontay was very respectful. He respected her stance and the whole thing. But
right.
after a while, when it seemed that Tyson was uncontrollable by her, he went ahead and went that way, kind of sidestepping her authority.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt like she never had control. They, she never had control from the beginning of the press conference. I mean, he came in and he didn't want to sit down. So that was the start of it. He was like, "Nah, I think I'm going to just stand. I don't need to sit. I've been sitting all day." Right? So there was that. And I don't think she had much control over the whole proceedings, including at the end, which we'll touch on later on. But I mean, I thought, you know, I was thinking about the fact that Tyson Fury recently had a baby about almost 8 weeks now. It's almost 8 weeks, I think, since he had his child. And I'm thinking that, like, when I'm looking at him, I'm kind of feeling like I'm looking at a different guy, a guy that's a little more intense and a little bit more, maybe he's got something else to fight for here. And I know that his baby was sick. She had some medical problems. And, what that did was take away a little bit. I think it probably took him away from the focus of the fight camp a little bit, but I think that he knows what he has to do. He's pulled himself back, and that's kind of what I got out of listening to him talk a little bit about that.
Yes, the child was premature, female child, and he spent a few days or so, by the side of the child.
Yeah,
But reports are the child was never sick; it was just premature. And when you're premature, they just need to be sure that everything is functioning.
yeah,
So there's no at this time there's no cerebral palsy or
right.
mental or physical
Thank God.
defect or mental just it's just the baby came early. And that being the case, he has opportunity to focus, knowing that the child is normal. It just came
Right,
a little early. My two of my daughters were premature like that, but they had nothing physically wrong with them other than they were small.
right,
So once that hurdle is cleared, you have a decent. I mean, you mentally you're okay, and that's where he is. He's mentally okay. The doctor told him this child is just small. Uh, no feeding tubes or breathing tubes. The child's just small, so the
right,
child will pick up that weight that they were just pick up because it was 7 months. Came out 7 months. It was only 7 months, not 9.
right.
So I saw the confidence in him as you did.
Yeah, I really did pick up on that. I mean, when you pay attention to the small details, sometimes the small details can be a big thing, going into a fight like this. And one of the other things that I also picked up on is thinking about the fact that Deontay Wilder has been out of the ring for almost 20 months now, right? It's almost been almost 2 years. And if my memory serves me correct, and that he's been training the whole time though, and he's been training with Malik Scott, and they've been doing a pretty incredible job. Even Sugar Hill commented on the fact that he believed Malik Scott was doing a great job with Deontay Wilder, and that it was kind of inspiring them to train harder and to do more work, because they could see that Deontay Wilder had this eye of the tiger, if you will, for lack of a better pun. But he has this eye of the tiger, coming into this fight.
Well, you have revenge factor and get back factor.
Yeah.
And at times that understanding, that feeling, that drive can overshadow a skill set
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
that
sure.
you don't have because you are so determined to get that get back.
Right.
And this is, you can only use this maybe once or
Yeah.
twice in your career or in your life where your desire to succeed outweighs the skill level you have to actually achieve it.
Right.
So that being the case, uh, he is really going to sell out at all expense because he is fighting for his own identity as a man going forward
Yeah.
because the situation was what it was, how he lost, and he says he was this, that, and the other. So his motivation is just purely just, it's kind of like a football team who comes out there, they got us all the adrenaline, and by the second half, they have no adrenaline and they get beat. But the first half, they was do really well because they were just so hyped. But when the talent has to come through and the hype and the adrenaline is gone, they don't have anything. But
Right.
in this situation, he's going to be able to sustain that fear, for only 30, 46 minutes. So I see him just really possibly taking punches that he would never normally take, put himself in situations where he shouldn't be there because his skill set doesn't dictate that. But that drive to get that get back
Right.
is going to be a monster.
Yeah, I agree. And if what Malik Scott said in the press conference about the fact that they've been working on a lot of different skill sets comes to fruition, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't like to put words in people's mouths, but it was something to the effect that, we've been working on tools that Deontay Wilder has had, but has chosen not to use them. So he's had these tools, but oftentimes when he gets into fights, he just goes to the go-to power, and he uses the tool that he knows he can get the job done with, which doesn't allow him to really use many of the other skill sets, and kind of shows like a one-dimensional Deontay Wilder. And Malik Scott commented that what he really tried to do was something very, very simple, which was just to remind Deontay Wilder of these other things that he has in his toolbox that he just chooses not to use. And
True.
yeah, I thought that was a really, really clever way, both as a coach to talk about his fighter, but also in terms of the strategy going into the fight. How does that look when they actually do compete?
Well, if you look back at his fight with Ortiz,
Yeah.
he boxed in that fight. He threw the jab. He was in and out.
Yep.
He dropped the right hand. He went from left to right. That was actually boxing. It wasn't A+ boxing, but it was boxing, which he doesn't really, do all the time. But in
Right.
that fight, he was boxing. So for Malik to say that he does have those tools, you can look back at one of his previous fights. You can see
Right.
resemblance of those tools are there and they have been utilized.
Yeah.
So if mentally he can put aside this angst, this anger, this get back, and think about boxing, he should be able to to use some of that. I'm just worried about the anger can overwhelm him, but he has a chance with the anger, so I can't really
No,
go
I
either
think.
way with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Deontay Wilder has so much to prove in this fight. Although he did say in the press conference that he has nothing to prove, right? I get that. But, I mean, I'm sure somewhere deep-seated inside of his soul as a fighter and as a gladiator that he really has something to prove to himself that he can get the job done. So to say you have nothing to prove is maybe not completely accurate. I don't know. I mean, he said what he said. But, at the end of the day, for him to be able to beat the Gypsy King, after coming out of 2 losses, I think it's a huge chance. It's a huge opportunity for him. And if he comes in hot the way he looks like he's going to, he could give Tyson Fury a run for his money for sure. And I think that is why this is one of the biggest fights of the year, if not the biggest fight of the year.
I agree. We know Tyson has a skill set. We know he has a strategy to beat Deontay. We know this. We've seen him. He's strong. Right. He's stronger in certain times. He ragdolled him around in the second fight, just threw him where he wanted to throw him. Kind of just walked through him. He just kind of went in at him at his leisure. Actually, right. It was an easy fight for him in a sense. But this time, it's going to be just a little different in that the opposition, is going to be a little stouter, and opposition is going to, you're going to have to kill me type of thing.
Yeah.
I may be taking these punches I don't need to take. I may be in a situation where I got to take some just to try to give some, which is not my style, but I'm going to do this because I have this mandate that I must go through. Right. And sometimes some fighters, the other fighters say, that guy is just crazy. He's inhumanly crazy. I did my best. I'm a better fighter. But on that night, he just was like some kind of Superman, some kind of alien type thing. And I've heard fighters say that, that particular night, and they never recreate that. They're just motivated for that situation.
So there's a couple of things I want to chat with you about. One of which is like, this to me, as I start to lay out the variables in this fight, I'm thinking that as much as this is a heavyweight fight, where anything can happen, at the blink of an eye, the fight can change at any time during the course of this championship bout. However, I also think that this is also a fight that is going to be won based on who makes the correct adjustments. Knowing that these guys know each other, and knowing that these guys, both of these champions, have been in the ring with each other, and they have both made adjustments coming into this third fight, this is going to be, as much as it is a fight between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, it's also a fight between Sugar Hill and Malik Scott. And I can't stress that enough, because the guys who make the best adjustments in this fight will most likely be the ones that win this fight, this third trilogy fight.
Yeah, we touched on that on our last podcast, and what you just said was spot on. You're absolutely right. I just see that if the waters get too deep, Sugar Hill may have a little more experience, and like we said before, if they're going by every word their trainer is telling them,
right?
I would think Sugar Hill will have a little more experience on how to deal with the other situation.
Right.
Whereas on the other side, he's not necessarily been there before. They've never even done a fight together when he was a head trainer. So those variables are there.
Yeah, and so like you said, the question becomes for the listeners is, does the person, so Tyson Fury and Sugar Hill have been working together. They've known each other since 2010. So it goes all the way back to Detroit, Michigan, right? They know each other from back then. They have a great line of communication. I think one of the attributes and the things that can really play a big role in this fight is the communication that they can, and the adjustments that they can make on the fly. And then and the question goes to you, Harold. Does Wilder and Malik Scott, the fresh new voice in the corner, the guy now, Malik Scott has been in Wilder's camp for a very long time. He's not new to the camp, but he's got a lot of new things that he's trying to get Wilder to use in the fight? And do those things end up being reminders, or does he still have, beyond those things, adjustments that he's willing and able to make throughout the fight? Take note, okay? I'm saying this to you, Malik Scott. Make sure you have those adjustments in your playbook for the night of the fight, because the question becomes, like, it's one thing to teach him or remind him of skills that we know he has. It's another thing to make those adjustments in the fight. They're two different things.
As a trainer, of course, that is, spot on for him. So I hope he hears you and he understands that situation. I've got to go all the way back to the very beginning for me, between Scott and Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder knocked him out early in their fight.
Right.
First round. They became friends after that.
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder's training at home. This could be a situation where everyone is a yes man, including Malik. So does Deontay respect him enough? Does he get enough discipline where he's going to feel that he has to incorporate this,
right,
so he won't disappoint his trainer? Or is he just his boy?
Yeah.
On par. That is the part that concerns me, because an old school trainer like Mark, if you train him, I don't care if you think we're friends, we're not. I'm the trainer. I am going to put you through the paces whether you like it or not. Yeah. I don't know if Malik is going to put Wilder through the paces because they are friends, and does he have the autonomy to put his foot on Deontay's neck and make him work?
Yeah.
Now,
good point, Harold. Very good point.
You got the food and all that. Everyone's right there. So who really ran the show? Who is forcing him to work? Now, I say that to say this. In the fight, will Wilder respect his direction? Did he respect him during the training, during the run-up, to actually do what he said he wanted to do, or he just put people around him who was going to help him the way he wanted to, and then he would decide how he would fight the fight, regardless of what was said?
Right.
That's the only caveat that I see.
Yeah. No, just to touch on, look, there's going to be a lot of things to consider here. I don't know if you heard, it just came off the wire. They just announced all three judges and referees are coming out of the United States for this fight. So, I don't know if that plays into against Fury, and does it play in favor of Wilder? They announced the officials for Saturday's Fury versus Wilder 3 fight, and so the referee is Russell Mora is the referee.
I worked with him.
Yep, and the judges are Dave Moretti.
I worked with him.
Tim Cheaton or Chelton.
I worked with him.
And then Steve Weisfeld.
I worked with him.
So those are the three.
All of those gentlemen that were named, I've done fights with them where we were ringside together, and my car and their car went to decide a fight. Right. So I know those guys as far as their understanding.
Right.
As far as my understanding is with them. Now, Mora is the right kind of referee because he is not going to be breaking them up. He's going to allow them to work on the inside.
Right.
So if Deontay is going to work on the inside, he's going to have opportunity because that's Mora's thing.
Right.
He allows them to break down. He uses his voice. He's not a hands-on, I'm gonna push you apart type of thing.
Right.
He uses his voice. So his voice is what breaks them. So that allows them to get a little more work in before they actually physically break. As far as the judge is concerned, we all know Weisfeld and Cheatham and the other gentleman. So I've been around them, worked with them, and I can't really comment on what their style is or what have you. but
Oh,
whenever I work with them, we are basically on the same kind of accord type of thing. So they are excellent judges for the situation. They're going to see it unencumbered. They're going to see it the way it is. The biggest factor to me is Russell Mora in the ring as the referee.
yeah. Oh, big
He
time.
is the one that's going to allow the action to be
Well,
to go the way it needs to go naturally.
well, and because there's so much anger in coming into this fight. There's so much bad feelings coming into this fight. You're going to have Tyson Fury wondering about these judges, right? And you're going to have Tyson Fury also on the flip side taking things into his own hands. And you got to wonder, is he going to hit behind the head? Are there going to be those rabbit punches that we saw, in some of the previous fights? What is Russell Mora going to do, when there are those rabbit punches? How's he going to deal with that? So there's going to be a lot of other variables going into this fight as well. But I just thought the fans out there should know that we have, Dave Moretti, Tim Cheltan, and Steve Weisfeld that are going to be the judges, and Russell Mora is the referee for this fight. So that was just announced today, I believe, and just a couple of days ahead of the actual fight. So, all I'm saying is there's a lot here, man, and the one thing I wanted to say about the press conference is at the end of the press conference, like they talked about meaning Fox and ESPN and PBC, everyone involved. They talked about the fact that they did not want a face-off, specifically because they did not have security on that stage. And Bob Arum was livid, man. He was out of control, livid at the end of that press conference because the young lady, what is her name? Yeah, she actually called for a face-off, not knowing that they had already agreed that there would not be a face-off. So no, it wasn't like she meant like she did it anyway. She did. I don't think that they told everybody else, but they didn't tell her. And she's the one conducting the interview. And she didn't know that there wasn't going to be a face-off. Had those two faced off, they could have possibly killed each other the way that they were, I mean, it could have been another Canelo, Caleb Plant situation, and God forbid anybody got cut 2 days before the fight,
Or a sprained ankle or a sprained wrist from pushing, or anything could have happened.
Yeah.
The staging of that press conference was somewhat different. In boxing, they call the stage a dais, and the dais, in my opinion, wasn't set up properly. Miss Abdo should have been elevated. She should have been on a higher platform so she could look down on the other two. Now, she attempted that by having Tyson sit down, but she still just would have been eye level. I would have had her elevated some to create that air of I'm presiding over the situation.
Yeah,
and so that was minus, and because he didn't sit down. So it didn't really have the proper feel. I'm sure the publicists and everyone in the future is looking at all of this, and I guarantee the very next one that she does or is done in that situation will be set up completely different, because she lost all control strictly because of eye level contact, of where she was placed,
right.
And all of that. So when she called for the face-off, I was surprised because there was no one on stage who could stand in between. Of course, they do something like that, Mark, as you know, and it starts to get kind of theatrical, and you try to push everyone up. But there was no one to even play that role, and I know she wasn't going to be able to kind of do that. So when it was called off, I was like, great.
Yeah, I mean, I was just sitting there biting my fingernails, going, "Oh my gosh, are these guys gonna kill each other before the fight? Are we gonna not have a fight because of this?" And sure enough, they they both exited the arena. They went their separate ways. Well, actually, Tyson Fury stayed on the stage calling him Badassa some more and, screamed at him as he was leaving the arena as Deontay Wilder exited the arena. So it was something, man. It was quite a spectacle.
It was well done. If you're one who doesn't like authority, you don't like that type of control, that whole out of control that Tyson was exhibiting. If that's your personality, you loved it because he just was going against the status quo. I'm not sitting down. I'm going to scream. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm not going to be, at all. Whereas another type of person likes the controlled animosity. When you get your turn, you can go off, and then when he gets his turn, he goes off, and we get to see both sides instead of one just dominating the other. So it all depends on how the fans like their press conferences.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So listen, Harold, we could talk about this fight all day long. Let me just remind you all, this fight is a pay-per-view event. It's on ESPN Plus and Fox pay-per-view, 9 Eastern Standard Time, 6 Pacific Time. And y'all need to get your tickets. Y'all need to go and get that pay-per-view and watch this fight. This is a historic fight. This is the golden era right now in this generation anyway. The heavyweight division is about to heat up. There is going to be one soap opera after the other for the next year or two. And you're about to see some must-see boxing. If you are a boxing fan, tune in. Harold and I will be there. We will be tuning in. We will be watching this show. And it's going to be out of control. I hope that you guys have enjoyed being with us tonight. You've enjoyed the conversation about the Wilder and Fury mega match. And Harold, I just want to thank you for spending your time with the fans and with me. It's always a pleasure. And you add such insightful commentary, and it's wonderful to be with you. And I guess as much as I don't want to say goodbye to our fans for the night, I think it's time to say that's all for tonight, folks. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the Boxing Breakdown on YouTube. And do not forget to check us out on Apple Podcasts. If you're driving around in your car, listen to it. Listen to it in your car. We love to be with you. We love to take the ride with you wherever you're going. And tell a friend in the boxing community. We're growing the channel. We're growing what we're doing. And we're really, really pumped about being able to share boxing with you. So until next time, peace and love. On behalf of Harold Hunt and myself, we are out. We'll check you on the other side. Thank you very much for listening in.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxy and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxy.